The first time I saw her, my heart betrayed me. I wish I could tell you it was gradual, that it built slowly, like a tide rising on a quiet shore. But no, it struck me all at once, like lightning tearing the night in half. And here's the truth. I fell for my sister's teacher. A line I never thought I'd say out loud. If you're listening now and haven't subscribed yet, you'll want to, because this isn't just a story about love. It's about how love can burn, how it can undo you, and how it can force you to face truths you never wanted to see. It began on an ordinary Thursday, but ordinary days have a way of disguising themselves before they shatter you. Mom's car broke down that afternoon, and she called me in a rush, begging me to pick up Emily from her after-school literature club. I sighed, keys in hand, not realizing the weight of what I was walking into. The sky outside was bruised with colors, purple fading into fire, shadows growing long across the cracked pavement of the school lot. I leaned against the wall by the classroom, half distracted, scrolling through my phone. Then I heard it, her voice, low, steady, patient. The kind of voice that feels like it was born to tell stories, to guide restless kids into seeing beauty where they thought there was none. And then she stepped through the doorway, arms full of books, hair undone from a long day, strands falling across her cheek. Tired, yes, but there was a softness in her that stopped me cold. For the first time in years, my breath caught. Emily rushed out, eyes bright when she saw me. "Daniel, you actually came." Her laughter was real, unfiltered, but I barely heard it, because behind her Miss Carter moved like time itself, bent to her rhythm. She set the books on her desk, looked up, and her gaze found mine. It was only a glance, just the length of a heartbeat, but my world cracked open. She smiled, polite, a curve of lips I could have dismissed if not for the warmth behind it. Emily tugged at my sleeve, pulling me forward. "Come on." The classroom smelled of chalk dust and old pages. Posters of poets stared down from the walls, their words frozen in place, as if waiting for someone to give them life again. "Miss Carter," Emily said, "this is my brother." Her name fit the room, like it belonged there forever. "Miss Carter," she extended her hand, steady, professional. "So you're the brother I've heard about," she said. Her fingers were warm, and I held on a second too long. Something unspoken began in that moment, something I couldn't name, but couldn't deny. The drive home with Emily was filled with her chatter friends, essays, plans for the weekend. Her words washed over me, but my mind was still trapped in that classroom, still replaying the exact tilt of Miss Carter's smile. "Why are you so quiet?" Emily asked suddenly, narrowing her eyes. "Just tired," I muttered, but my chest pulsed with a restless fire that had nothing to do with fatigue. That night, I lay awake, ceiling dark above me, the city outside buzzing faintly. Every time I closed my eyes, she was there, books in her arms, hair falling loose, that smile. It should have ended there, a fleeting impression, nothing more. But fate had other ideas. The second time I picked Emily up, Miss Carter noticed, promoted to chauffeur. She teased lightly, her eyes holding mine a fraction too long. I forced a shrug, masking the way my pulse raced. "Guess so." Her laugh was soft, but it lingered. I walked out of that classroom with my heart pounding. Emily caught on. "You're acting weird lately," she muttered, narrowing her gaze. I brushed her off, but inside, I knew she was right. Something was unraveling. Rain came the following week, heavy sheets against the windows. Emily asked me to help her memorize a poem Miss Carter had assigned. When I saw it, my chest tightened. The poem was about forbidden love. I read the lines aloud, Emily stumbling through them beside me. Each word sank deeper into me, as if they'd been chosen for my secret alone. That night, I walked into the storm. The rain clung to my skin, blurred my vision, but I needed it. Needed the sky to wash away what I felt, but it didn't. It only carved it deeper. The next Thursday, Emily forgot her homework folder. Mom asked me to take it to her school. I didn't hesitate. The halls were empty, echoes of footsteps bouncing off lockers. I found the classroom lit by a single lamp. Coffee steamed on the desk, red pen scrawled across papers. And there she was, alone, glasses slipping down her nose. Her head lifted when she saw me. Her eyes softened. "Emily's brother," she said, quiet like it meant something. I stepped inside, holding out the folder. She left this. Her smile was small but real. Of course she did. I crossed the room, placed it in her hands. Our fingers brushed, and everything inside me went still. The clock ticked. The rain tapped against the glass. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, longer than they should have, and in that silence, I knew whatever this was, it wasn't just me anymore. The silence between us felt alive. The rain outside tapped a rhythm against the glass, as if echoing the pulse pounding in my chest. Her eyes didn't look away, not right away. They stayed locked on mine, heavy with something unspoken, until the moment stretched so tight it almost broke. Then she blinked, pulled her hand back, and straightened a pile of papers with quick, nervous movements. "You should probably get going," she murmured. The sound of her voice snapped me back. I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came, so I just nodded, turned, and walked out. Each step echoing down the empty hallway like a secret I was leaving behind. But the truth followed me home that night. I couldn't shake it. I lay in bed with my hands behind my head, staring at the ceiling, hearing her voice again. seeing her eyes again. I told myself it was nothing, just a look, just a passing moment. But my heart refused to listen. It beat out her name in the dark. By morning, I convinced myself to bury it, to shove it down deep. But life has a way of throwing you into the very fire you're trying to avoid. A week later, I came to pick up Emily again. The hallway was noisy with kids spilling out, voices bouncing off the lockers. Emily hadn't come out yet, so I leaned against the wall, waiting. And then I heard her laugh. Not the polite kind she gave in class, but a real one, low, warm, the kind that seemed to melt the edges off the noise around her. I glanced toward the doorway and saw her inside, crouched next to a younger student, helping him pack his things. Her hair fell forward as she spoke, and she brushed it back absent-mindedly, her hand brushing her cheek. My chest tightened. Then, as if sensing me, she looked up. Our eyes met again, not for long, but long enough for something sharp to pierce through me. I stepped back, trying to compose myself, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Emily came running out then, books pressed to her chest. "Let's go, I'm starving." I barely answered. Later that evening, Emily dropped her backpack on the kitchen floor and started rummaging for snacks. "Oh, guess what? Miss Carter's picking me to read at next week's event," she said proudly. I froze. "Event?" "Yeah, like a poetry night. Parents, students, everyone. You have to come." The thought of sitting in that classroom again, watching her while pretending I felt nothing, made my stomach twist. But I forced a smile, of course. The night of the event, I sat in the back row, arms crossed, trying to blend into the crowd of parents. The air was warm, humming with quiet chatter. Students fidgeted up front, nerves spilling across their faces. And then she walked in. Miss Carter. She wasn't in her usual work clothes. She wore a simple navy dress, her hair pinned back just loosely enough for a few strands to fall free. She moved with the calm authority of someone in her element, yet my eyes caught on every small detail, the curve of her neck, the tired but steady grace of her movements. She glanced across the room, and paused just for a fraction of a second when she saw me. My chest clenched, then she looked away, slipping back into the role of teacher, host, guide. Emily read her poem, her voice steady, her small hands gripping the paper. I clapped louder than anyone when she finished, but my focus was elsewhere. I could feel Miss Carter's presence across the room like heat radiating from a fire. After the applause, parents gathered in small groups, talking quietly. Emily darted off with her friends, and before I could stop myself, my feet carried me toward the desk at the front of the room. She was there, stacking papers, her head lowered. "Emily did great," I said, my voice low. She looked up, her eyes met mine, and something flickered there, something she tried to smother almost instantly. "She's talented," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her. They moved too quickly, too carefully. I hesitated, words fighting their way out of me. Finally, I said what I shouldn't. "I can't stop thinking about you." Her breath caught, just barely, but I heard it. She shook her head, her jaw tightening. "Don't," she whispered. "You can't say things like that." "I mean it." I pressed my voice rougher than I wanted. Her eyes darted to the side, checking the room, then back to me. And for a moment, the walls she kept so carefully around herself cracked. I saw the longing she tried to hide. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling, "you have to leave, right now." I stepped back, my chest burning. "Tell me you don't feel it," I said. Her lips parted, but no words came, and that silence was louder than any confession. The drive home that night was unbearable. Emily hummed beside me, flipping through her notes, oblivious to the war tearing me apart inside. I gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. I told myself it was over, that she'd made her choice. But deep down, I knew she hadn't told me no, and that was enough to keep me burning. The twist came sooner than I expected. The next afternoon, Emily came bounding into the living room, waving a slip of paper. "Guess what? Miss Carter invited me to a special study session tomorrow, at her house." The words hit me like a blow. At her house. I managed a nod, forcing a neutral smile. "That's great." But inside, the fire roared back to life, because tomorrow I'd see her again. Not in a classroom, not surrounded by students or parents, but in the privacy of her own home. And I didn't know if I had the strength to walk away this time. The next day came too quickly. I told myself I was only driving Emily, that I'd wait outside, maybe read something on my phone, and pretend none of this was tearing me apart. But the truth sat heavy in my chest. I wanted to see her, needed to. The house was small, tucked away on a quiet street lined with old trees. Ivy curled up its brick walls, curtains drawn against the afternoon light. It didn't look like the home of a teacher. It looked personal, a place she kept hidden from the rest of the world. Emily bounced in the passenger seat, humming some song. "Don't embarrass me, okay?" she teased, tugging on her backpack straps. "I wouldn't dream of it," I said, though my voice was distant. She hopped out, ran up the short steps, and rang the bell. When the door opened, my breath caught. Miss Carter stood there, framed by the doorway. No blazer, no professional armor, just a soft gray sweater, jeans, her hair pulled back loosely. Her face was bare of makeup, her eyes softer, more vulnerable. For a second, her expression shifted when she saw me behind Emily, not surprise, something sharper, something that said she hadn't expected me here, yet couldn't stop herself from reacting. "Come in," she told Emily, stepping aside. Her gaze flicked to me, just for a moment, just long enough to set my chest on fire. Emily disappeared inside. I stayed on the porch, pretending to check my phone, but a voice cut through the quiet. "You don't have to wait out there." I looked up. Miss Carter leaned against the doorframe now, one hand holding it open. Her eyes met mine, steady but unreadable. "You can come in, if you want," she said. The air between us shifted again. Dangerous. Charged. I stepped inside. The house smelled faintly of coffee and lavender. Bookshelves lined the walls, stacked high with novels, papers, old photographs. It was warm, lived in, not the carefully curated space of a teacher, but the private world of a woman. Emily settled at the dining table, pulling out her notes. Miss Carter sat across from her, sliding papers into neat piles. I hovered awkwardly at the edge of the room, trying to pretend I belonged. For a while, I watched them work. Emily read aloud, stumbling through stanzas, while Miss Carter guided her gently, her voice calm and steady. I should have been focused on my sister, but every time Miss Carter leaned closer, every time her hand brushed across the page, I felt it in my chest like a knife twisting deeper. At one point she looked up, maybe by accident, maybe not, tanned, her eyes locked with mine. The sound of Emily's voice filled the space, but it faded into the background. For that brief moment, it was just us. She blinked, pulled her gaze away, and busied herself with the papers, but her hand trembled slightly when she picked up her pen. After an hour, Emily stretched and yawned. "I'm starving," she complained. Miss Carter smiled. "There's some fruit in the kitchen. Help yourself." Emily darted off, and suddenly it was just the two of us. The silence weighed heavy. My heart pounded so loud I swore she could hear it. She kept her eyes on the papers, but her voice betrayed her when she finally spoke. "You shouldn't be here." "I didn't plan this," I said quickly. "I just drove her." Her lips pressed into a line. She set her pen down, folding her hands tightly together as if bracing herself. "You don't understand how dangerous this is." I stepped closer, unable to stop myself. "I do." Her eyes flicked up sharp, searching my face for something. "Then why are you looking at me like that?" "Because I can't help it," I whispered. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The clock on the wall ticked. The fridge hummed faintly in the kitchen. Her breath hitched as she pushed back from the table, standing abruptly. "This isn't," she started, but her words cut off when Emily's footsteps returned. Emily plopped back into her chair, happily munching on an apple, oblivious to the fire that had just nearly consumed the room. Miss Carter sank slowly back into her seat, her face composed, her voice steady again, but her hands, they shook. The session ended shortly after. Emily packed her things, thanked her teacher, and headed for the door. I lingered, pretending to help her with her bag when Emily stepped outside first. I turned back. She stood in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes blazing with something she couldn't hide anymore. "Daniel," she whispered fiercely, "don't come back here again." I opened my mouth to argue, but she shook her head. Her voice dropped, breaking just slightly. "You're making this harder than it already is." And then she shut the door before I could answer. The drive home was silent. Emily scrolled on her phone, humming to herself. I gripped the wheel, my chest aching. Her words repeated in my head. "Harder than it already is." She didn't say she didn't feel it. She didn't say I was imagining it. She only said it was hard, which meant it was real. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every second, every look, every tremor in her voice. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just obsession. She was fighting it too. The twist came the following week. Emily forgot her notebook at school and begged me to run back for it. It was late, dusk falling, halls empty, classrooms dark. I found the notebook quickly, stuffed in her desk, but as I walked back through the hallway, I saw a light glowing faintly under one of the doors. Her classroom. I should have walked past, but something pulled me in. When I pushed the door open, she was there, sitting alone, head in her hands, papers scattered across the desk. She looked up, startled eyes red as if she'd been crying. "Daniel," she breathed, her voice raw. And in that moment, I knew something had broken. Whatever walls she had built was starting to collapse. She looked up at me, startled, eyes rimmed with red, her breath uneven. The classroom felt different that night, empty of students, stripped of noise. Just her, just me. "Are you all right?" I asked, though my voice barely carried. She pressed her palms flat against the desk, trying to compose herself. "You shouldn't be here." "I just came for Emily's notebook," I said, holding it up like proof. "But," I hesitated, taking a step closer. "You're crying." Her jaw tightened. She turned her face away, brushing at her cheek as if that erased the evidence. "It's nothing." "It's not nothing," I said quietly. Silence stretched, fragile like glass ready to crack. Finally, she whispered, "Do you know how exhausting it is to fight every single day against something you can't even name out loud?" Her voice broke, the words spilling like she'd been holding them in for too long. My chest clenched. I wanted to reach for her, but my hand stayed frozen at my side. "Say it," I murmured. Her eyes snapped to mine. "Don't you dare." Say what we both know, I pressed, my heart pounding. Her lips parted, but nothing came. She was trembling, torn. And then suddenly, she pushed back from the desk, crossing the room so fast it made my breath hitch. She stood just inches away now, her presence overwhelming, her voice fierce but shaking. You don't understand, Daniel. You're younger. You're Emily's brother. I'm her teacher. This is a line we can't cross. I swallowed hard, every word a blade. Then why do you look at me like that? Her breath caught. For the briefest second her face crumbled. The answer was in her silence, in the way her chest rose and fell too quickly. I can't do this, she whispered, but she didn't move away. I reached up slowly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She flinched just barely but didn't stop me. The room pulsed with something bigger than both of us, and then the sound of a door slamming down the hall shattered it all. She jolted back, her hands flying to her papers, her expression snapping into cold composure. Go, she hissed, eyes darting toward the door. I stood frozen now. The command in her voice cut through me. I turned, my hands shaking, and walked out before the footsteps in the hallway drew closer. I didn't sleep that night. My skin still burned from being near her, my mind replaying her words. Exhausting to fight. She hadn't denied it. Not once. The following days were agony. I avoided Emily's club, avoided the school, but she lived in my head, constant, relentless. Until one evening, Emily tossed her bag on the couch and announced casually, Miss Carter said she might leave the school after this term. I froze. What? Yeah, she said, she's thinking of moving. Something about needing a change. Emily shrugged, flipping through her phone. My throat closed. Leave. She was going to vanish before I ever knew the truth. I couldn't let that happen. 2 nights later, I found myself outside her house. The street was quiet, shadows heavy beneath the trees. My car engine ticked as it cooled, the night air pressing down on me. I knew it was reckless, wrong, but the thought of never seeing her again was unbearable. I knocked once. My heart thudded in my ears. The door opened slowly, and there she was, surprised, weary, wrapped in a cardigan like she hadn't planned on visitors. Daniel, she breathed, voice low, eyes scanning the street behind me. What are you doing here? I needed to see you, I said. My voice cracked on the words. She closed her eyes briefly, like she was summoning strength. You can't just show up here. I heard you're leaving, I pushed, my chest aching. Is it true? Her silence was the answer. Tears burned my eyes before I could stop them. Why? Because this, she gestured between us, her hand trembling, is killing me. The words hit like a blow. You feel it too, I whispered. Her face crumpled, and she leaned against the doorframe, exhausted. Of course I do. Do you think this has been easy for me? Every time you walk into that room, I feel like the ground is shifting under me, and I hate myself for it. I stepped closer, desperate, the night air thick with the scent of wet leaves and her perfume. Then don't leave, please. Stay. Her eyes shone with tears. If I stay, I'll break. The silence between us trembled. For a heartbeat, I thought she would slam the door, but instead, she whispered, come inside. Her living room was small, warm, the faint glow of a lamp softening the shadows. She sat on the couch, her hands clasped tightly while I stood frozen in the doorway. Sit, she said finally, her voice shaking. I obeyed. The silence was unbearable, thick with everything unsaid. I shouldn't have let you in, she whispered. This is wrong. You know it. I nodded slowly. I know, but then I leaned forward, voice breaking. Knowing doesn't change the way I feel. Her tears slipped free, catching the lamplight. God help me, Daniel. Neither does it for me. The confession hung there, dangerous and undeniable, and I realized we had crossed a line we could never uncross. Her words echoed through the room, raw and trembling. Neither does it for me. I sat there, unable to move, my chest tightening with every second. She'd finally said it, the thing we'd been dancing around, drowning in, fighting against, and hearing it out loud was both the most beautiful and the most devastating moment of my life. Miss Carter, to know Claire, because suddenly Miss Carter felt too formal, too distant, buried her face in her hands. What are we doing? She whispered. This isn't fair to you. It isn't fair to Emily. To anyone. I leaned forward, voice breaking. I don't care about fair. I care about you. Her hands dropped to her lap, and she looked at me with an expression that nearly destroyed me. Love and sorrow, tangled together. You don't know what you're saying. I do, I insisted. For once in my life, I actually do. Her lip trembled. For a heartbeat, I thought she would reach for me. And God, I wanted her to. But instead, she stood abruptly, backing away as if distance could put out the fire burning between us. You're too young to throw your future away on this, she said. Her voice cracked, betraying the war inside her. And you're too scared to admit what you want, I shot back. The words hung there like thunder. Her breath caught, and then she broke. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks as she whispered, do you think I haven't imagined it? Every single day. Do you think I haven't lain awake at night wishing things were different? Daniel, I can't do this. It'll ruin you. It'll ruin me. The sight of her falling apart hurt more than anything I'd ever felt. I rose slowly, my own tears blurring the room. Then tell me to walk away. Tell me to forget you. She stared at me, eyes glistening, lips trembling, but the words didn't come because she couldn't. The silence between us was answer enough. That night, I left her house with my heart split open. Emily chatted beside me in the car, oblivious while I tried not to fall apart behind the wheel. Sleep didn't come. Food didn't matter. Days blurred. I replayed every moment, her smile, her trembling hands, her whispered confession. And I knew one truth: whether we ever touched, whether we ever crossed that final line or not, I would never be the same. Weeks passed. She avoided me, kept a distance, buried herself in her work. But every time I saw her in that classroom, every time her eyes accidentally brushed mine, I felt the same fire, and I knew she felt it too. Until one day, Emily came home with a heavy look on her face. "She's leaving," she said quietly. Miss Carter handed in her resignation. The words cut through me like a blade. I asked where she was going, but Emily didn't know. Just somewhere else. Somewhere far enough away to start over. That night, I sat in the dark, my hands shaking, staring at nothing. I wanted to run to her, to beg, to hold her until she broke with me, but I didn't. Because loving someone sometimes means letting them go before they destroy themselves, and she knew better than I did that if we didn't, that's exactly what would happen. The last time I saw her was after Emily's final class. Parents filled the room, kids hugged her goodbye, some crying into her shoulder. She smiled for them, thanked them, gave them the best of herself one last time. When the room emptied, I lingered at the doorway. She looked up, our eyes met. For a long moment, neither of us moved, and then she smiled, soft, broken, beautiful, a goodbye smile. My throat tightened. I wanted to say 1,000 things, but all that left my lips was, "Thank you." She nodded, her own tears shimmering. "Take care of her. Take care of yourself." I turned before I lost the strength to walk away, and that was it. I'll never forget her. The way her voice could fill a room. The way her hand shook when she tried to push me away. The way she whispered she couldn't fight anymore. Sometimes, love isn't about getting what you want. Sometimes, it's about carrying a piece of someone inside you, even when you can't keep them. She'll always be with me. In the poems Emily still reads aloud. In the scent of lavender and coffee. In the quiet nights when I remember her smile. I fell for my sister's teacher. And though we couldn't stay in each other's lives, she changed me forever. If you've stayed with me until now, thank you for listening. If this story reached you, if you felt even a piece of what I felt, make sure you're subscribed, because there are more stories like this, stories that cut, that heal, that remind us what it means to love, even when love feels impossible.